Hey everybody, I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday night. I am very pleased to have this gentleman on the show with me tonight from 1975 on. He was the lead guitar and steel guitar player in the Buckaroos. And when I say the Buckaroos, of course, you know I'm talking about Buck Owens. And he's got a lot of great stories, and I'm very happy to have him on the air. We're going to talk about his great career in country music. It's a pleasure to welcome Terry Christofferson to My Kind of Country. Terry, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing fabulous, and right away I want to say thank you to Mario Carboni for getting us in touch. I really appreciate that.
He calls me about, at least once a week, and wants me to go on the road with him and Norm Hamlet.
Man, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to work out a deal where you have two steel guitars on the stage.
Hey, I don't see anything wrong with that. That works for me.
Well, it's interesting. I've done it once with him.
Yeah, not too long ago you guys performed together, didn't you?
Yeah, for Red Simpson's birthday.
Yeah. Well,
he wasn't there, obviously. But,
yeah.
It was an interesting, thing that a lot of the local talent in here in Bakersfield.
You bet there's a lot of it. And I'm so glad that Norm Hamlet is still with us. He still sounds great.
Yeah.
Great guy, that's for sure. Well, Terry, before we get into talking about the meat and potatoes of your career, tell me a little bit about your early years. I found out a couple things about you that you had a group around 1964 and played on one of Dorsey Burnett's solo albums, and you also did some surf music too, right?
Yeah, we called it surf music. I'm not sure what that is, but we had an album on RV Records called Surfin' Wild, and I think it's even you can still find it on the internet in DVD form or CD form. Yeah.
So how did you get into music?
Well, my dad took us to the fair one day in Fresno, and we saw a bunch of kids on the stage playing and seemed to be having a good time. And it was a local instruction place called Star Studios. Mm-hmm. And so he signed us up for lessons. So my very first expose to music was on a six-string lap steel, electric. And so I learned how to play on that. The very first song that was given me was a song called "Nearer, My God, to Thee," which I had never heard of before. But anyway, it was a song to learn, and so I still know it.
You had the distinction of holding down both the lead guitar and steel guitar with the Buckaroos. You in effect replaced two different people. And you came along in 1975 after Don Rich had passed away. How did you get the job with playing with the Buckaroos? And also, did you know Don Rich, and did you get to play music with him at all?
I never played with him, but I had met him a couple times. In fact, I had come down from Fresno. I was in high school. I was playing guitar with this girl who played steel guitar, and we got on the Cousin Herb show. Mm-hmm. And Don Rich was playing guitar on that show at the time. And so I got to meet him. Plus, his guitar is the same guitar I had. It was a big orange Gretsch. We had something to talk about there, and but I never worked with him. I got to know. Well, Jim Shaw and I had a little band together in Fresno. And then later on, we got to know each other, and then I went into the Marine Reserves, and he followed me into there. And when he got out, he later on went to work for Buck. And then when Don Rich got killed, I ended up getting a phone call to audition for Buck.
So what was that like?
I didn't know what to expect, but it was just you wanted to hear this and hear that and a little bit, other things, and he didn't hire me then.
Really?
He had another guitar player from Fresno, Don Lee. I ended up working with him with Buck for a while. He was a real interesting fellow himself. And that was the same time Buck hired Janet J to play fiddle.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So how did it come about that you ended up playing steel and lead guitar?
Well, I already played both instruments. When I was, in fact, not too long before this happened, I was just a guitar player in a band in San Bernardino. Billy Mize had loaned me his two-neck Fender 2000 because I had mentioned to him that I really would like to learn how to use the pedals on a steel guitar. Because I familiar with playing steel guitar, but not a pedal steel. Mm-hmm. And so he said, come and get it. So I did. And so I taught myself how to do that. And the first thing I did was figured out all the Ralph Mooney licks that are on Buck stuff. Buck hired me and wanted me to play steel guitar, I guess, and guitar while I was at it, I guess. Only I didn't have it down where I could switch that fast. And I was playing guitar with a flat pick, playing steel with finger pick. And so I had to have a warning. What song is going to be next? But later on, I just learned how to play the guitar using finger picks.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had kind of a special guitar that you used. It looked like it was quite a bit smaller than a normal guitar.
Well, I wasn't using that. I was using a Fender Telly when I came to work for Buck. And then I used a Telly that Fender gave him while I was in the late 70s. We flew back to do the HEAW show, and the airport had lost my steel and my guitar.
Oh, man.
I mean, eventually I got it, but I was playing my Telly, so Gibson showed up at the studios and gave me a Les Paul to play.
Oh, wow.
And I sat there and pretended to play somebody else's steel, which is almost impossible. But what we did at that time, we were taping our tracks here in town at Buck Studios, and then we go back there and Buck would sing with them, and we pretended that we were playing.
I see.
And I tried to remember how I did my licks, and so I wasn't going one way and music going the other way. It worked out pretty good, but anyway, I had this Les Paul, and it was a big, heavy guitar.
Right.
And they gave it to me, Gibson.
Wow.
And so one more time I heard back. I think we were doing a Nashville Now show or something like that. And I was sitting in the dressing room with Grandpa Jones as bass player, and he suggested that I get a Steinberger guitar. I said I didn't know they made one. And he said, oh yeah. So I checked in on it and ended up buying a Steinberger guitar. I've had it ever since 1984.
Tell me a little more about the Hee Haw show. What you said you went to, I assume, to Nashville and recorded this. Did you do a whole bunch of episodes at one time?
Kind of a half a season, twice a year. Yeah, 13 shows every, 6-8 months or something. I don't know. Sometime in the start of summer and sometime in the fall.
So was everything that you performed on the show, was that you said that was all recorded ahead of time, that you just pretty much mimed what you were doing?
For a long time there. Now, they moved. When I first started, they were taping at WTVF in Nashville, the TV station downtown. But later on, they moved to Opryland, and we taped there at the where the Grand Ole Opry is. So, and we started playing live on a lot of things.
Now during this time, from 1975 on, Buck wasn't doing a lot of shows, was he?
Oh, yeah, we did a lot of shows.
Oh, okay.
From 75 until, I don't know, somewhere in the 80s. But then he went back to doing it. When we got together with Dwight, I don't know, it just kind of like, he just did a show here and did a show there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, the comeback albums, I call them, that he did in the late 80s, the Hot Dog album and the Act Naturally album and Kicking In, those three albums, especially the Hot Dog album, I think are just some of the best stuff he ever did, and I know you played on those. And
one album that they cut us live in San Francisco, and I played on that one. Obviously, it was us as a band, you know.
Yeah, that just got released here a few years ago. I had that on a bootleg some years ago. And that actually got an official release, and that's a killer album. 2 CDs, and it's just back-to-back-to-back songs.
Yeah, we did about everything he knew.
Yeah.
That was kind of a fun show, actually. It was some theater they were rebuilding or remodeling or something, and they had us playing for it. So I was surprised when I heard. We weren't aware. I don't think that they were recording us.
Oh, okay.
But when I heard that played back, later, I was amazed that it turned out so good.
It sounds great. I love it, and it's just packed full of songs. He even did, Swinging Doors. He did some, stuff that you didn't normally hear too.
Several of Merle Haggard's things were part of the show that we did when we went out at that time. So it was a lot of fun doing different stuff all the time.
How was it working with Buck on the road? Was he very meticulous about how his stage shows went, or was he more of a kind of loose and just calling out songs, or how?
Yes and no. I mean, he wanted things right, There were times when it got kind of loose. I can give you an example. Is when we did Crying Time on the San Francisco album, he'd turn around and he would tickle his fingers. He wanted me to play the trills on the steel. And so I thought, well, hell, the boss wants it, so here we go. And so it sounded ridiculous, and then we got to the end of the steel solo, and then he went back to singing. I think I said something to the effect, well, you asked me.
I think he had you play it twice, didn't he?
Yeah, it went through 2 courses, I think.
Yeah.
I thought it would never end. It was fun, though.
I'll have to play that for our listeners tonight. I remember that. That's great.
Sure.
Tell me about some of the other Buckaroos that you worked with at this time.
Well, there's Jim Shaw, and he's helping me paint my house as we were talking. And then Doyle, who hasn't been playing much lately because he had a gun go off right near his ear, and it kind of deafened him to the point where he can't really hear what he's doing. But we get together and play things so that he can remember what the chords were. So he does a good job of that. Doyle singer.
Yep.
And now our drummer is Dave Wolfbeater. We had Jim McCarty for quite a while there. After we had started playing more at the Crystal Palace, but then he quit. We have a girl singer, Kim Maccabee.
Oh, sure, I know Kim. You bet.
Oh, good. We've had other people fill in, sit in with us.
Sure.
Not on a regular basis. So.
And you guys are still playing periodically at the Crystal Palace, right?
Yeah, we were, yeah. Up until COVID hit. I was trying to think. Back in it was clear back in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, where we had Ronnie Jackson playing banjo with us.
Mm-hmm.
Buck called me in his office and wanted to know if I knew how to play banjo. And I lied to him and said, oh, sure. And I know how to play it, but not very well. But it worked. We're on the stage, you know. And at Crystal Palace, I was switching. Depending on the song, I'd play acoustic guitar. Other times I'd play electric guitar. And, of course, I had my steel there. And it would switch to banjo once in a while. And you know, it was kind of like Buck would start the song, and I think, oh, shit, I got to go. You know? I'd grab me an instrument.
Tell me about the Crystal Palace. When did that come into play, and what was your role? I know you worked there, and what was your capacity there?
Well, Jim and I helped kind of design it, put it together. In about 95, is when we opened. We went on several tours of the country looking for examples, things to copy and whatever. And there is nothing to copy. There's nothing like it anywhere. You know, it's a museum and a food and a entertainment venue all in one. They book a lot of people in there, current artists and whatever. I can't think of everybody that's been in there. But, I mean, we did a big thing for the when Garth Brooks wanted to propose to Trisha. We did a big thing where we played outdoors in the parking lot, and Merle Haggard was there. What is it? That group from Texas.
Asleep at the Wheel?
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a beautiful place, that's for sure. I'm glad it's all still going. And
yeah, we're kind of proud of it. I don't work there anymore, other than playing.
Mm-hmm.
I was a general manager for about 5 years.
Okay. This might be a little bit difficult to talk about, but can you tell me about the last time that you've performed with Buck at the Crystal Palace?
The reason I remember it is around March 24th, 06, because that was my wife's birthday. And he played that night. He was getting a little strange, you know, the way he approached me, but I was used to it, because Buck was kind of did his own thing when he played. So it was that weekend, and I don't know, Jim or somebody called me and told me that he had passed away. So we continued playing there, and I think Buddy played several shows with us. And finally, Buddy couldn't do it. But it was, you know, it was a change in all of our lives. We all survived so far.
Mm-hmm. And Buck had been ill for a while. I know he'd had some problems. So he had I think he had throat cancer. Had part of his tongue taken off.
He had done that, and I don't know. I had heard that he kind of wishes he hadn't had his tongue operated on, but it affected how he pronounced things and how he sang. That was beforehand. But yeah, he wasn't feeling too chipper there at the last.
What are some of your favorite memories of being on tour with Buck, and maybe some favorite places you played, or some things that kind of stand out in your mind?
Oh, we played so many places. Like we'd go to Europe, and we'd go to England, and go to Ireland. I enjoyed playing in Toronto on this revolving stage. That's kind of a fun experience. Your audience kept changing in front of you. We played in a big tent in Switzerland with Highway 101 Doug August was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was strange having a big tent with that much bad acoustics. But it was an interesting place. We also did a show in the Montreux Country Music Festival. Yeah, recutting Act Naturally at Abbey Road was a fun experience. Got to hang out with Ringo Starr, had lunch with him.
Oh, wow, you played on that record?
Well, no.
No.
We cut a demo there, but then Buck went back to put his voice on it with Ringo.
Oh, I see.
But I think I played acoustic guitar,
okay,
rhythm or something on it.
Okay, that's cool.
But they had one of the guitar players from Nashville, Reggie, and so. But that was a fun experience, and got to play in a lot of places that I've heard about all my life, But we played in Wembley. And that's showing. You can find that online. That was I think we were on a tour with Waylon Jennings. He wasn't on the show, but on that particular show, but Ralph Mooney was on the bus with us coming back to London.
That had to be an interesting trip.
Yeah, it was.
I always heard Ralph Mooney was quite a character.
He was. He enjoyed himself. Or enjoyed his... I heard him back there yelling, "I want to see old Buck." He was going on. I think he was putting away some sauce. But we did it. When we did the Hot Dog album, he hired Ralph to play on there. He showed up at the Capitol because I was there to play on it also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was weird. We were trying to get Ralph's sound on my steel, and it just wasn't happening. It was me playing my steel, So, but then Ralph showed up. Somebody brought his steel in for him, and he sat down behind it and just plucked a couple chords, and I knew exactly who he was. And he had a sound all his own. It's how you play it. It wasn't so much what he was playing; it was just he was playing it.
Oh, that's a fabulous album. I love that. That's my favorite studio album. The Carnegie Hall concert, I think, is probably my favorite. But the Hot Dog album, that's my favorite. Man, start to finish, I love that thing.
Yeah, that was that album was cut in several different places. I think, if I remember right. Yeah, I remember driving to Santa Monica, Mad Dog Studios. Dusty. This is after Buck had hooked up with Dwight,
mm-hmm.
and I remember getting caught in traffic. It took me 6 hours to get from San Bernardino to that.
Oh man. Well, this might be a hard question to answer, but what are some songs that are favorite songs of yours that you really enjoyed playing with Buck, and what are some songs that you really didn't care to play?
I'm trying to think. I enjoyed playing just about all of them. Yeah, yeah. We had a rehearsal from hell one day where we went over Seven Spanish Angels, but that really wasn't part of our show. It literally wasn't. We didn't play it after all the rehearsing we did. But I like playing the Buck Owens songs that had Mooney Steel stuff on it.
Yeah.
Because I had learned most of his licks on guitar. we'd jump in and play. But then there were times where he'd look at me and point or, something like that. So I'd kick it off. And I enjoyed those songs. We did a lot of songs that I wasn't really wild about things that had fiddles playing hoedown. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not into that too much. But I don't play fast. I don't do fast licks or anything. And so I would just end up playing rhythm guitar through the song. Orange Blossom Special and whatever.
Yeah.
But Buck took it on himself to learn how to play fiddle. So that was an interesting thing. I remember going down and meeting Jim one time. They were taping a show at CBS in Hollywood, at the Glenn Campbell show, and Merle Haggard was on the show. And we were all sitting in the dressing room, and the guys in his band were there, and I'd grown up with 2 or 3 of them, so I knew them, and including Norm. They said that Merle was on his way down to the dressing room. He wanted to have a little jam session. Only they were saying that they hoped he wouldn't bring his fiddle, but but he did. And it was still a fun experience, especially for me. I wasn't even working with Buck at the time. I was just familiar with the guys in the band, whatever.
Well, Buck was a decent guitar player too.
Oh, more than decent, yeah.
Yeah. He did a lot. He did a lot of session work, I think, in his early days too, didn't he?
Probably that was what he did in the studio before he ever sang it. I remember hearing a lot of Tommy Collins records and things where it was him playing guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got one more question I want to ask you before I let you go, and it's I heard a story about you going with Buck to dig a steel out of the trash. That was a Speedy West steel guitar. Can you tell me that story?
Well, Buck said somebody called down there and said they have a steel guitar that's been in their field for some time, and he wanted to go check it out. And I said, "Let's go." And we hopped in his truck and went down there, and there's this steel guitar that had been out in the rain and everything. It was a 3-neck Bigsby that was way beyond repair, and there was some talk about Speedy West's steel being stolen at some time, and so they had some pictures of it, and I looked at the pictures, and I looked at this steel guitar. I knew that was the steel guitar. It's a shame that it had been mistreated and everything. But I was familiar with Bigsby steels anyway. My steel guitar teacher, when I was 10 years old, played a big 4-neck Bigsby.
Oh yeah.
And so it was a big, beautiful bird's eye maple, and it didn't have any pedals. It had levers on the end of the neck, and you couldn't change the pedals while you're playing, but like you can nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, that it turned out to be the big steel.
Wow. So did you guys take it, or was it just?
Oh yeah, we picked it up and put it in the truck.
Yeah.
It's at the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I don't know. I think somebody's done some type of restoration on it.
Wow.
I don't know if it's playable or not.
So it's in the Bakersfield Country Music Hall of Fame there?
No, the Nashville.
Oh, it's in that? Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. I'll have to look for that next time I go. That's an interesting story.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching Speedy West when I was just a kid, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to learn how to play pedal steel, because we used to go to this National Music Association in Long Beach every year, and I was just a kid, 10 years old, but he had just got a pedal steel guitar, and he was demonstrating. He and Jimmy Bryan were playing, doing a little show for all the kids, and he played steel guitar rag. He said, "I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to use my bar at all." He says, "I can do it with just the pedals."
Wow.
And he did.
Wow.
So he played it, and I thought, I got to get me one of those someday. When Fender came out with a pedal steel, the 800, it was still $1,000.
Yeah.
More than I could afford to spend at the time.
Yeah. We're going to play some of the songs from the San Francisco Live album. We're going to play Crying Time that we talked about. I want to play that for our listeners. Terry, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on my show. BuckOwens.com is the website, by the way. You can go there and check out the Crystal Palace and read about Buck Owens' fabulous history in country music. And Terry, you were a big part of that Bakersfield Buck Owens sound going. And I want to thank you so much for taking time to be on My Kind of Country.
Well, thank you for considering me.
Well, it's my honor. Thanks again to Mario for hooking us up. Tell Jim Shaw I said hello. I had the privilege of interviewing him a few years ago, and I've interviewed Willie Cantu as well, so I'm pretty honored.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to talk with you, Terry. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for calling.
All right. Take care now.
All right. Bye.
All right, that's Terry Christofferson right here on My Kind of Country. Here's some fabulous music from Buck Owens and the Buckaroos. This is from the Live in San Francisco 1989 show that we talked about during the interview. Check out these great songs and pay close attention to Crying Time there as My Kind of Country continues.